Okay, James, good boy. Let's go in the pot.
Okay, so no. Witches were not green, had warts all over their faces, or could fly on a broomstick.
Okay, anyways, welcome to Trash Course.
The place where we discuss topics that John Green doesn't give a crap about.
I'm Ava.
And I'm Michaela.
And we're going to talk about witchcraft.
Witchcraft can be described as the ability to perform black magic. Those who were accused of being a witch were considered worshippers of the devil, enabling them to practice this sorcery. Black magic was executed by witches with the intent to cause harm to others and to the community. Witchcraft became known in 560 BC due to the two Old Testaments that condemn women. Although many witch trials had occurred before this, the Salem witch trials of 1692 were one of the most well-known. The idea of witchcraft began in Europe and spread to the New World.
Politically, during the 1500s to 1600s, occasions of violence and instability occurred through wars and other issues in politics. This includes the Dutch Revolt and the 30 Years' War. Because many of these wars were provoked by the Protestant Reformation, religion played a major role in corrupting central authority in Europe. Witch hunts were more severe because of the chaos happening, especially due to decentralization, which was caused by religious confusion.
Okay, and socially, most of the women accused of being witches were single and ready to mingle. They were considered vulnerable because they had nothing to protect them. No money, no husband, no social status.
Intellectually, many ideas developed during the era of witch hunts. Before people were familiar with medical science, people accused those with a mole, growth, or boil to have what they called the devil's mark, which connected people to the devil. This made people hysterical because the devil was believed to be a figure who could control events and humans.
And finally, institutionally, because the central authority in Europe was totally messed up, especially in German-speaking places, people pretty much did anything they wanted during the witch trials, which caused many to go berserk.
Seeing that witchcraft represented interactions with the devil, the church was the main suppressor of the progressing practice. During the Middle Ages, witchcraft had been slowly developing. In addition to this, most Christians basically claimed that witchcraft was not real and denied that witches actually existed. However, in the beginning of the 16th century, when the Protestant Reformation began, these ideas soon came to change. New Protestant religions began to branch themselves off of Christian beliefs. This includes Lutherans, Calvinists, and Anglicans. As the Protestant Reformation progressed, more and more Christians began to identify witchcraft as a true practice and witches as real beings.
Because of this, many Western branches of Christianity began to participate in the persecution of witches. A few famous Protestants, such as John Calvin and Martin Luther, wrote about witches in their works, explaining that their actions will not be tolerated by the Protestant community. As a result of the suppression of witchcraft by the church, several witch hunts were soon to follow. Many women were accused of being witches, so they were taken to court and were persecuted. Throughout Europe, if a person was accused to be a witch and to have relations with the devil, the punishment was to be executed, usually by being hung or burnt at the stake.
So now let's talk about why women were mostly accused of being witches, like WTF! Although some men were accused of being witches, women were the most common to be tortured and killed. This is due to the belief that women were inferior to men, and because of that, they were considered weaker and more unstable. Many people came to believe that this weakness caused women to be more susceptible to being influenced by the devil.
Sexist.
Michaela!
Okay, well, just because I can get moody and fat because of my time of the month or have the ability to give birth does not mean I want to get freaky with the devil.
Okay. Anyways, the idea that women are inferior to men originates from the beginnings of man with the story of Adam and Eve. Since Eve was vulnerable and gave into the temptations of Satan, people began to believe that women come from a sinful nature, causing men to be looked up to.
The decline of witch hunts in Europe was a gradual process that occurred for decades. There are two phases of the decline: the time when accusations and convictions decreased, and finally, the overall conclusion of witch hunts. During the first phase, many factors, including political, intellectual, and social factors, were big influences to the end of the witchcraft craze, while institutional factors sparked the second phase.
Although political factors may not have been the only cause that led to witch hunts, many trials began to decrease dramatically as authority became more centralized and stable over time after the 1600s.
Socially, as conditions improved over the years, there were less vulnerable single women to be accused of witchcraft and diabolism. The poor law that was established in England and Wales were one of the many concepts that improved the social environment for women. Because these type of women fit the category of being poor, they were supported through the system. Also, tolerance led to major changes in society as well. Works such as Thomas More's Utopia promoted tolerance and changed the behavior of society, which eventually aided in the decline of witchcraft.
Philosophically, the rise of secular rationalism led to realization that diabolism and witch hunts were beginning to sound like bullcrap. People also started to realize that a mole was not credible evidence as to why someone should be accused of having connections with the devil. Europeans also changed their perspective of the devil's power. Instead of being this crazy powerful being who could control minds, the devil is now just a figure in Christianity that can tempt humans into sin.
Institutionally, adjustments were made in judiciary institutions which benefited improving political stability and leading to the end of witch hunts. Also, changes of laws declined mass hysteria among society. In Britain, the Witchcraft Act of 1734 established that the traditional form of witchcraft was no longer a legal offense, and punishments were lighter. Plus, many countries in Europe abolished witch hunts altogether during the late 1600s to 1700s. For example, Louis XIV of France created a royal edict in 1682 that helped decline the witchcraft craze.
There were many well-known witches throughout European history, one of which was Malin Matsdotter. She was a well-known witch in Swedish culture. Matsdotter was the only witch in Swedish history to be burned alive and had been accused by her own daughters. They had accused her of abducting her own grandchildren to use for Black Sabbath, or an assembly of witches where they commemorated on witchcraft. Apparently, she died silently and without pain.
Another well-known witch was Agnes Sampson. King James VI of Scotland had started a campaign against witches, feeling as if they had cast a spell on Mother Nature and were the reason for a terrible storm that he and his wife had been in on their way home to Scotland. Agnes Sampson was one of many accused. She was tortured until she confessed to have relations with the devil, when she was then immediately executed. It was later discovered that Sampson had gone to a witch's coven on the night of Halloween to help ruin the king's voyage back to Scotland.
Women were mostly accused of being witches, like WTF.
Dang it!
Okay. I forgot. It's gonna take forever. No! I'll do it!
No! I got this! I need to conquer my fears!
Welcome to... Ow! No! Okay. Place it. No one went out. Okay.
What? Dang it! It's not going.
James, good boy.
You moved your ice again.
Okay. Let's just both take a sip and then...
One more time.
Oh!
Okay, go. It's on.